Right. So in today's session, we are going to discuss about UI. SOAP UI is all about because SOAP nothing but simple object access protocol, which majorly used to develop any kind of access protocols and all everything. So this is what something which normally we use it. In this regard, when it comes to the project itself is concerned, while we are working on the projects, developing different APIs like SOAP API, at the same time Restful API and all everything are what something which normally we create. In this regard, it's always important for us to create different SOAP APIs and all that. So at the same time, whenever we are creating a new SOAP or as at the same time RESTful micro mock services and all everything, it is always important for us to create an API integration using two different. Of course, we have web API as well. Web API, SOAP API, at the same time RESTful API. These are the different types of APIs which normally will be used when the working on the project. Now, when we are working on SOAP UI, it is always important for us to add the new test suite, which is already created here. You can see for a project which is called core banking, as I've taken as an example. Different test suites we are creating here. Whatever the required test suite and all everything were created. So whatever the kind of security configurations you want to make for existing project, wherein by implementing the outgoing security configurations or incoming security configurations, all these things is what something which we have to do under the security configuration part. At the same time, if you want to create any kind of security scan details, etc., here we have to enter the token because we need to generate the tokens first. So once we have generated the token, whatever the accessibility of security scans and all everything can be accessed here. So these security scan defaults and all, wherein this token will be identified how and what generally is a security scan we are doing for a particular object when we are creating is what something will be mentioned under the enter token part on that. So we have to create a token because the authentication authorization of the application which is to be accessed for the purpose of security is important. In this regard, token generation is required. So whatever the generation of the token was done earlier, so that has to be implemented here. The token has to be implemented here so that this can be connectivity and all everything will be done here as well as. At the same time, you need to mention the descriptions, etc. all this regard. This is what something which normally we do whenever we want to add any kind of test suite, or let's say if you want to import any kind of test suites. All these things are something which is required here when we are working on it. At the same time, if you want to add any kind of Wsdl, for example, if you want to add any kind of Wsdl files and all, so we need to identify the location from where the Wsdl is coming from. For example, there are different bin files we have, because whenever we are working on SOAP UI, these are all different bin files are available, right? SOAP UI log4j XML files may be there. Normally, there can be some PNG file formats will be there, some splash screens and all everything will be there. At the same time, there are some batch files because whenever we are working on the bin files and all, there are different batch files will be there. At the same time, mocker service runner batch files or security test runner batch files or else SOAP UI batch files. These are all the different batch files which are essentially required. So whenever we want to integrate in this regard, so creating the batch files and as well as integrating these batch files by adding to the Wsdl is what something which we have to be updated under the Wsdl location. So whenever we have created a batch file, it's always important even when we need to create a request and all, sample request has to be created. So whatever the subsequent information you want to be updated and whatever the batch files you want to be updated in this regard is what something which we need to know it. But when it comes to the accessibility of SOAP UI is concerned, whenever we are working on it, it's always important where we need to identify different files. For example, here we have selected all files. Whatever the extension files we have and all everything can be seen. For example, any extension files do we have? Those extension files can be taken in this regard. That is one thing. At the same time, whatever the action items do we have, if there is anything of that sort, those action items will be taken in this regard. At the same time, if there is any kind of SOAP UI log4j application we have taken, for example, right? So because XML file format, because either it can be an XML file format, XML or JSON, because generally there are two kinds of file formats which normally we use. Here you can see, right? So XML file formats will be there. XML or JSON file formats will be there. So some people uses XML because whenever we are working on the data migration, sometimes we will be using XML, normal regular file formats to XML. Some people use it. At the same time, some people will be using, as far as data migration itself is concerned in migration projects, they may be using old file format to the JSON files. So whatever, either it can be an XML or JSON file, the file format implementation is what something which is essentially required whenever you are working on the SOAP UI. This is what and how generally this configurations and all everything is what something we do whenever we are creating any kind of test suites or something like, if you want to set up any kind of test scripts or if you want to create any kind of test suite logs, whatever we have, everything can be updated in this regard. So this is what and how generally this SOAP UIs and all everything will be used for. At the same time, if you want to create any kind of new workspace as separate, we can create that. So how to create new workspaces, right? So how to switch into the new workspaces and all that. At the same time, how to create a SOAP project or RESTful project, right? So API projects and all everything that I'm going to discuss in the coming session. Okay, this is all about the session today. If you have any questions, please reach out. Thank you.